Evangelize but don't fraternize. What in the world does that all mean? And how can we walk that out in the true kingdom of God? Hello, saints and those seeking God. This is Mark White, Executive Director of Walkworthy Ministries, with another episode of Walking in a Manner Worthy of the Lord. Good day to you, saints. We're one day closer to home and to Him. So evangelize but don't fraternize. What does that mean? Well, let's take a look at the opposite of what's happening these days. What we hear in most Christian church circles in the West is that we're supposed to spend all this time with these unbelievers, and the phrase that was popular maybe 10, 12 years ago, but still is around in practice, is what they call friendship evangelism. In other words, you spend time, you shoot darts, and drink beer with them, and hang out with them all the time, because Jesus hung out with sinners, right? Well, not really. This is what Jesus did. Jesus did meet with the sinners, with the desperate tax collectors and the prostitutes, because they wanted to meet with Him. And He did evangelize them. That's all He did. He spoke these hard truths. The kingdom of God is like, the parables, the parable of the sower, the 4 different camps, where the first 3 groups are bad soil. There's only one good soil. He told them to count the cost, because most people will apostate from the faith. Jesus is extremely dicey and straightforward, not pulling any punches, you could say. Love your enemies and do not resist him who is evil. Now you'll remember when he preached this whole word, and in John 6 at the end, John 6:66, I think it is. That's easy to remember. That it said all of his disciples left him. His disciples, except the 12. And then he said, certainly, do you want to leave me too? And Peter, wonderful Peter, courageous Peter, especially after Pentecost. Don't trash Peter till you see him in the book of Acts and read his 2 epistles. He's a great man of God, one of my absolute favorites. He said, Lord, where do we go? You have the words of truth. So what Jesus did is he evangelized, but he didn't fraternize, hang out with them. There is not one recorded instance in the Gospels that he spent one night inside the walls of Jerusalem when he went there for the various feasts and festivals during the year. He went in, taught, interacted, healed, cast out demons, and then he left, went out the east gate, down the Kidron Valley, up the Mount of Olives, spent time there, and then he went to Bethany. It was his favorite place on earth. He stayed at the home of Martha and Mary and Lazarus and the saints that were there. It was probably, I think it was about a mile away. So it probably took him 30 minutes to walk there. Of course, there's hills and ravines, so it may have taken him a bit longer than that. And then he would go back in the morning. You remember with the triumphal entry, he came in, looked around, went back to Bethany. Then he came back the next morning. He cursed the fig tree. He came back, and then he busted up the temple. None of this cleanse the temple. That's like saying genocide, when people are slaughtering folks in countries. America slaughters folks routinely, or provides the weapons for people to do so. So he would evangelize but not fraternize. Now let's look at a couple of biblical mandates for this. What did Paul say? What did he say? What was his admonition? He quoted a parable, a modern day parable of his day to proclaim a spiritual truth. He said, do not be deceived. Bad company corrupts good morals. It's sort of like the one that's attributed, I think, to Benjamin Franklin, the occultist, who said, like, a penny saved is a penny earned. Things like that. So I heard a story one time where somebody said, if you took your hand, your main hand, let's say you're right-handed, and you put a white glove on it, and you stuck it in the mud and brought it up, the mud doesn't get glovey. What happens? the glove gets muddy. And that's the same thing with spending time. In my prior days as a pagan, I spent a lot of time with the lost. Now I evangelize, but don't fraternize. That way I can walk worthy, be holy, not be polluted, and not be involved in the demons that are attracted to pagan people. This is a spirit world war as well. So that's one of the reasons that Jesus says, get in and get out. Let's follow his example. The same with Paul. He did the same thing. He didn't stay in the homes and all this of pagan people. Remember, Jesus said, when you go and evangelize, go and find out the people of peace and stay in their home. You know, there's people of influence, and stay in their home if they'll have you, and if they won't, then leave. Take your peace back and leave. It'll be more tolerable for Sodom and Gomorrah in that day. I mean, another one of those curses, one of those warnings. So I think it's pretty clear. It's pretty clear. Don't fall for this New World Order, New Age, everybody get along, kumbaya, of, be nice to everybody and whatever. No, preach the word in season and out of season. Let the words of Jesus and his causticness at often shake the people up. One of the gentlemen said not too long ago, I said, jackhammer preaching to bust up the concrete of some person's heart. That's exactly right. Evangelize, but don't fraternize. Are you really doing any evangelism at all? Probably not. Years ago, I read the admonition of one fellow. It was in an article. It said, I'm afraid in trying to lean over to speak to the world, we've fallen in. Don't fall in, saints. Be demonstrative, but don't fraternize. This is Mark White with another episode of Walking in a Manner worthy of the Lord. Remember, saints, we're one day closer to home and to him. Be holy in all of your behavior. Goodbye for now.